Hi, I'm Julie Lubinsky, Web Manager for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. I'd like to welcome you all to this month's chat with Dr. Dan. Dr. Dan is a practicing psychologist and therapist with more than 40 years of experience, and he's best known as the host of Voices in the Family on WHYY-FM, an NPR affiliate in Philadelphia. He is also the author of 6 books. And I'd like to welcome Dan to our live web chat today. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Julie. How are you?
I am in holiday mode.
Oh, you got to say more than one word. Mode. Come on.
Yeah, mode. So I did.
For God's sakes.
I'm not much of a decorator. I actually have to say I don't particularly care for the holiday. I like the holiday itself is fine. I just don't like all the things that go with it, like the decorating. I just don't like putting up a tree, and I don't like decorating the tree and that. But I actually did that because I have 2 daughters. So I decorated, and I'm starting to. I do most of my shopping for them online. So I've been taking advantage of like Cyber Monday and free shipping from Amazon. But I'm not looking forward to all the traveling and what am I supposed to bring where and how am I getting to all the places I need to get to, and so I don't hurt anybody's feelings, and am I going to be comfortable, and who's not going to talk to me this year. So so I'm glad I'm participating today, as I'm sure the other people in the phone call and the webinar as well.
So if you had your choice, would you cancel them?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd have everybody come to my house.
I have a feeling you're not alone. I'll tell you what the holidays mean to me. It was right after Halloween, a couple weeks after Halloween. I went into a department store, and I couldn't get around because they were starting to put all their crap in the middle of the aisles so that certainly people in wheelchairs couldn't get around. And I knew, I turned around and laughed, and I knew I was not going to get into a department store for the next 2 months. So that's one of the things the holidays mean to me, is that I can't get around much. Although, I do see family, and, I like that. And, once we get confined to a house and you're away from everything annoying, it's nice. It's warm and it's people. To me, it's a variant on Thanksgiving, which is my favorite. So, I asked everyone what you wanted, and one of the things I got, and by the way, you can always talk about whatever you like, and, we're not restricted. You can always talk about whatever you like, and so please feel free to call in or write a question down there. So is anybody on the phone? Julie, how do people join the conversation if they're on the phone?
If Therese, did you say the instructions for if they're on the phone?
I did. I gave them instructions. You want me to repeat it?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I certainly will. So if you would like to ask a question via the telephone, you may press star followed by the number 1 on your telephone. And if you would like to enter questions at any time throughout the webinar by using the chat feature located in the lower left-hand corner of your screen.
Thank you, Therese.
Thank you.
So is there any audio questions?
And not at this time.
Okay, that's not a problem. So
We do have an audio question. I'm sorry.
Great. Go ahead.
One just came in. Hold one moment.
I love audio questions.
Okay, and we do. I apologize. I had to get their name. I didn't have it. But their first question comes from Joanne Rotella.
Okay, Joanne, great.
Hi there. Hi, Dr. Dan. First of all, I hope this is okay. I am actually not I am not an injured, I don't have a spinal cord injury. I'm not injured. My sister is, and I am sort of calling to ask a question about her or on her behalf as we're trying to sort through some solutions regarding pain management. I have read some of your chat and blog information about various people writing in about pain management and different methods. And if this is not an appropriate forum for this, please, that's fine. Just let me know. But she is an incomplete spinal cord injury, so she still has like much more feeling and nerve reaction than I guess a complete injury would have. And it's getting worse over the years. It's been over 10 years that she's had an injury, and it's due to bruising and whatever else. So she's considering stem cell treatment. Is this a forum for discussing
Well, if you're looking at what's available medically, then the answer is no. I'm a psychologist, or as my mother would say, I'm not a real doctor.
What about non-medical?
Well,
in terms
let's talk.
Biofeedback or I'm sorry.
I'm all about well-being and dealing with suffering and making just going towards diminishing suffering and increasing our chances for happiness. Now, if you can get medication that'll do that, that's great. So much the easier. Or, stem cell or whatever's available out there. I know acupuncture has a good track record with pain. But so here's my question, my hypothetical question to you and your sister. What if this was the life you have? This was the body you have. These are the relationships you have. What now? What now? How do I live this life with pleasure, even gratitude? How do I live this life with compassion and self-compassion? Now, I have neuropathic pain. As I've mentioned before, my hunch is it probably is not near the level of your sister's, but, it is screaming pain. And it's so bad I can't move my arms. And so, but I have come to realize that what I really suffer with is not so much the pain, but the stories I tell myself about the pain. Stories like, this is awful, it'll never get better. Stories like, my life is unmanageable, I'll never be able to live with this. Stories like that. We make our declarative statements about what the pain means. And what I've learned is when I drop the story, pain is pain. That's all. Not to minimize it. But when I'm feeling pain, it's my body that is suffering. this body that has worked so hard for me with this disability, this body that has given me life, that body is suffering. And when I am aware of that, I feel great sadness and compassion for this body. That's a half step away from feeling gratitude for this body, for all it's put up with. So I'm able to feel compassion, even gratitude, and then compassion for myself, for this good man who suffers, for that good woman who suffers right now. Not self-pity and not self-indulgence, but self-compassion, so that I would hold myself metaphorically as though I would hold a baby who's crying. That kind of compassion, that kind of open-hearted, deeply caring, even loving compassion for this person who suffers. It changes everything. It really does. Now, of course, it's easier said than done, you know, but the trick is to change our relationships with ourselves, you know, and not to reject our bodies, which many of us do, and I'm sure many listening to this reject their bodies like I did. You know, I hated my body for so long. I was ashamed of it. I hated it for what it did to me, for what it did to my loved ones. And after a while, that hatred shifted to gratitude for keeping me alive, for giving me this life, and this life where I have love in my life, this life where I'm able to look out the window and see nature or listen to music. This life. It's a shift. So there's my non-medical advice. You still there, Joanne?
Yeah, that's actually quite lovely. Thank you.
I'm glad it was helpful. And listen, ask your sister to join us.
I did. I don't know where she is, actually. She was supposed to be on here, but...
I don't know. Maybe she's sitting there meditating and she'll, you know, she'll be enlightened. Who knows?
Maybe.
All right, but send her our best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
So let's see what else. Let me see. I've got probably, give me a sec. One of the answers I could use some advice about, probably family coping strategies, especially with young children. Boy, I'd love to hear more. If you can call in, you know, or even add some more detail in the chat box at the lower left of your screen. But I hope you're listening. Julie?
I'm here.
Refresh my tiny little memory. Is everybody up there listening? Do we know?
Yeah. So if the person that put in that answer wants to type in the chat box, only the presenters can see you, you know, your name and stuff, so we don't have to say your name if you don't want to. But if you want to elaborate, you're more than welcome to. If you have an audio question, please do *1, and we'll put you live on the phone. Otherwise, we'll definitely read your question.
And I should say, if you're not able to put more detail in the chat box right now, I'm going to be forced to give you an answer and make stuff up in the process. You know? But I happen to say in all humility I'm pretty good at after all these years.
Yeah, I'd be curious if they're concerned about, especially dealing with young children, and how they react around your chair, or how to politely say "don't touch," or I'm curious as to that reaction with the young children. What's specifically there?
Yeah, or if it's a difficult family member, family situation.
Right.
In general, though, with young children, they are way, way more resilient than we are, physically and psychologically. So even if it is, a difficult context, even if your family's annoying or arguing a lot, it's likely not going to affect small children, even if it's ugly there, and it's not likely to affect them. But I don't have a sense of what's going on. I can, Julie, I can follow up that. I mean, my difficulty with having small children around is the parents. They always pull their children away from me to quote, "stay out of my way," so for my sake. But it's all about parental anxiety, and the kids are naturally curious, and I love that. I love answering their questions. All right, so...
Yeah, user did type in something.
Yeah, so she says, or he, with kids, I am just open and honest. My kids have grown up around me and my wheelchair. It's just part of the landscape. With their friends, I just answer their questions very matter of fact. They seem to handle it well, and they do. It's what I said at the very end, J.S., before I read your chat. Yeah, they are. They're curious. They're just curious. I love, when I go into a classroom to read, a young kids' classroom to read, they just surround me. Nursery school, kindergarten, first, second, third grades, they just want to know everything about, the wheelchair, about my legs, about why I don't walk, and why I can't move my hands, and I just love those questions, because they want to know. Here's someone or something that looks different. So what are they like? And boy, JS, could they teach us a thing or two? So when we see somebody that looks different, we inhibit our own curiosity, and the world would change if we could just wonder, if not say it. What's it like to be you? What's it like to live inside your skin? Just what's it like? And approach everybody with that genuine, heartfelt curiosity. The world would change. I say approach people with a curious mind and an open heart. It changes everything, and our kids somehow know that, and we somehow forgot that. So, Jess, I have no idea if I answered your question. I know I rambled on a bit, but, those are just some thoughts for you. So if anybody's on the line, hang out with me. Let me see what else we have here. What kind of answers? I can't. Julie?
Yeah, so someone answered, I could use some advice about assisting parents with disabilities and helping the children of the disabled.
assisting parents with disabilities. You know, um, I'd love to have a conversation with whoever sent that in, because, you know, you say assisting parents with disabilities, it really has nothing to do with the disability. It has to do with the parent. You know, and you know, if the parent in question is cranky, controlling, a pain in the butt, depressed, you know, then it's going to be difficult for you. If the parent in question tends to be loving and accommodating and open, that makes things much easier. So, you know, I guess the question might be, tell me about that parent in question, and tell me about what they need and want. You know, part of the problems we do with our children, we do with our aging parents, and very often we do with those who are disabled. You know, it's like we feel we know what they want and need. And we really don't, even with young kids. You know, we don't. And it's always respectful to say, how can I help? What do you need now? And, you know, that really changes everything. So, you know, you might not like the answer you get, and you might not be able to accommodate their request, but, you know, it's certainly an important question to ask. So I don't know if I answered your question or not. So truly, I put this multiple choice on there. Are the holidays annoying, pleasurable, uncomfortable, inaccessible, lonely? I look forward to them and I dread them. Well, nobody said annoying.
That's good.
Except you.
Well, yeah, I'm different.
Nobody said pleasurable.
Wow.
And nobody said they dread them. But I got uncomfortable, inaccessible, lonely, and I look forward to them. So, you know, I'd love to hear from you guys about all that. I just had a thought, and I lost.
Yeah, the inaccessible, because I'd be curious if the inaccessible is that they're not able to enjoy the holidays because they're not able to, they feel like the places, you know, if there's events that are inaccessible, or if it's like visiting other people's houses that are inaccessible, like what's the inaccessible part of it, and how can, you know, what you can do to prep before that?
For me, it's all of the above. There are places, you know, I would like to go that I cannot go. You know, I've got family whose homes I can't get into, friends, and, you know, they feel terrible too. But, you know, Julie, most of these houses it's not like taking a ramp with you, which I do. I've got a one-step ramp in my wheelchair van, but, you know, most houses you can't get into with just a ramp. So, you know, if I'm not in good shape psychologically, I can do the self-pity thing with the best of them. But you know, it's sad, and so the events have to come here, which, you know, is a burden to Joan, my partner, companion. It's a burden to her, and, you know, most of my friends and loved ones, they know. So, you know, they bring the food, and, you know, they help set up and clean up. But, you know, it's still sad for them and for me that I can't get into their houses. So,
Dr. Dan, is there any concern, even with you going anywhere, even public places, with the chair, as to all this horrible things that are going on right now. I know that there's something going on in California now. With like the incident in Paris. Does that concern you at all? With you being in a chair, with
No, not at all. I mean, no more than it would if I was standing up. I mean, you're not at more risk or less risk. I don't feel if you're in a chair. It's I've got my own reaction to what's going on out there, and it's awful. I mean, it's awful. On both sides of the gun. But I don't feel being in a chair makes me more vulnerable. I feel, I'm no hero here. I feel quite vulnerable in general. And as I age, I feel even more vulnerable. But I don't feel increased vulnerability, risks of terrorism, or fire. We've all seen signs in hotels in case of fire, take the stairs. That would hurt. So, my attitude is, if I'm in a hotel and God forbid there's a fire, well, so that's that. And people argue.
The attitude you're taking is, you can even bring that down to the level of the holidays. Is you're taking to just what it is, kind of. If I can't go to a family member's house because it's inaccessible, then I can't go.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
You're constantly readjusting your life, as everybody is. Yeah,
and hopefully adapting to it.
That's important. Yes.
I took a weekend workshop last year with a master meditation teacher, Pema Chodron, who is internationally known. And she said she's an 80-year-old Buddhist monk. And she said, I finally found out what it meant to be enlightened. And I'm thinking, my God, you've been a Buddhist monk for over 50 years and now you're figuring it out? So she goes on with her story. And she says, I was watching TV the other day, which makes it even more curious. And then she says, and I was watching a commercial for a mattress. Great, even more curious. And she said a woman was laying on this mattress, the one they're selling, and obviously looked very comfortable, smile on her face. And her husband walks in, opens the door and walks in with 2 ostriches. And he says, honey, I've got great news. I sold everything and we're going to start an ostrich farm. And she says, I'm comfortable with that. So that's what enlightenment is. It's being comfortable with where you are this moment. Because you really don't have a choice. Because this is your moment anyway. So, this is my moment. I could fight against it, as you've heard me do just now a little bit, or I can be open to it. And those are really my only 2 choices. So I really went far away on that. I have no idea, Julie, if I even addressed your question. So, Joel, do we have any comments from anybody else?
I have asked if anybody would like to talk about anything. I haven't heard anything. And I don't think there's... Therese would interrupt if there was an audio caller. So I'm going to have to start picking on...
Of course I would.
I'm going to have to start picking on people. So who do we have? Marilyn and Paul, I haven't heard from you guys. And Paul, I've seen you here before, so please feel free to join in because you have Dr. Dan's ear, and I'm gladly take the rest of the time. But it's for you guys. So feel free to do the *1 if you want, if you're on a phone, or type in.
Hey, Julie, I'm having trouble. Did somebody call in?
No, not that I know of.
Julie, I'm having trouble finding the results of the polls. And to those listening, this is what happens between Julie and I.
If you
some technical question, I forget by the next month.
Sure, I will click over to the one, what is important for you to talk about here today. So we did talk about the pain management, family supportive strategies, if that's available.
Yeah, and not picking off any family members.
Which I don't think I think that's impossible.
I'll dance at that party. So, I mean, look, if they're going to get ticked off, they're going to get ticked off. But, like I said earlier, try to approach everybody with, a curious mind and an open heart. And, in an ideal world, and I wish I could cultivate this, in an ideal world, before I said anything to anyone, I'd like to be relatively clear about why I am saying it. Am I saying it to hurt somebody, to change somebody against their will? Am I saying it for the sake of my ego, to prove how, whatever, smart or accomplished I am? And, the rule of thumb here is don't hurt anybody. Don't say anything that's going to hurt someone unless it's important, constructive criticism that's going to help them. But you got to be careful because uninvited criticism is almost always, or uninvited advice is almost always self-serving. So, my advice is the advice my mother gave me when I was little. She said, Danny, be nice. And of course later she said, Danny, you could have been a real doctor. That's a different story.
What I find when I'm at, not so much taking out family members, but not being so sensitive myself, I get this feeling that I'm being excluded a lot, and I tend to take that very personally. And I don't know how to deal with that. I've been, do I leave the room? Do I say some snarky comment? Do I let it know that I'm uncomfortable?
Well, you could break down that sense of discomfort. And, what is that? Is it shame? Is it hurt? Is it familiar? And what you have to do is take care of yourself. And all of us have gone the snarky comment route. And all of us know where that goes. It doesn't make us feel better. It certainly pisses them off. So, you've got to care for yourself when you're suffering. And, if you need to leave the room for a couple minutes so you can catch your breath, so that you can hold your heart, like I say, for this good woman who hurt now, feels shame or abandoned or rejected, whatever you feel. But find compassion for you rather than aggression for them. And our first instinct is to go the aggression route, It's our first instinct. You hurt me, I'm going to kick your butt in my own way, But it doesn't make us feel better. And when somebody hurts you, Julie, a woman I care so much about, when somebody hurts you, all I want is for you to feel better, to help you diminish your suffering. That's all I care about. I don't care about the other people.
I think that's important too, because there's a lot of times where you get asked, well, what can I, if okay, I hurt you, what can I do to make it better? And I don't necessarily have that answered. It's almost like I want that person to do what they think is the right thing to do to make me feel better. I feel like don't put that onus on me.
Right.
I'm the one you hurt. You have to figure it out.
Figure out how to make you feel better?
Yeah.
Do you want them to help you feel better? Would you like them to?
I do. I think I'm just thinking of a recent incident. I'm just still in that place of hurt where I don't know what to tell them to make me feel better. It's almost like, well, don't do what you did in the first place, or don't repeat it. And then when I do give them another chance or something, they repeat it again. It's like every time I walk into the room with them, I get punched in the face. And so I leave the room and I regroup, and I go back into the room, I get punched in the face. And I leave the room, regroup. And it's almost like, okay, I'm done. It's like I'm done.
Julie, why do you go back in the room the third time?
Because I feel like it's just me, that it's my problem and not something that they're recognizing that they're hurting me.
Well, that doesn't matter. I don't care whose problem it is. You're my friend, Julie. I just care that you're suffering. So why do you go back in the room? Because other than the fact that you're judging yourself harshly, it's my problem, there's something wrong with me. I don't think so.
Yeah, I have to get over giving other people the power over my emotions.
Yeah, you hurt me, and here's how. Stop hurting me. Now, take some risk on your part to say that. Because here's
because your relationship changes. There's consequences in both methods.
Well, now we're at a different level of discussion, Julie, because now you have a choice. It might feel safer and more hurtful to keep things where they are. Even though it hurts, it might feel safer to keep things where they are, and that's fine. You can make that choice. Or you can take a risk and try to change things. But as soon as you have a choice and you decide which way you want to go, then you are taking more control of your own life, knowing you have a choice.
I feel like when I am faced with that choice, you're absolutely right. I take more control, and I seem to suppress less, because if I'm suppressing, it's like this well of emotion begins to bubble up, and then I feel like if I start crying, I'm gonna cry for a week.
Yeah.
So I can't let it get to that point.
Yeah, I've had that feeling. If I start crying, I'm just going to cry for a week.
Yeah.
Okay,
we have Paul. Paul did come in and say something.
Saving you.
No, I need help, but I want to be considerate.
Okay. Holidays are fun to enjoy, but being in a wheelchair changes the way you enjoy life.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, I could be in worse shape, and then I'm happy with what I have because it could be worse. So, you're right.
That's coping, right?
Yeah, and I love that language here, Paul. I'm going to quote you here. It changes the way you enjoy life. It doesn't change the fact that you can enjoy life or do it. It changes the way you enjoy life. And I'd love to hear more about that, and yeah, I gotta tell you, Paul, I think I enjoy life more, much more, than I did before I was in a wheelchair. I feel more grateful than I did. It's so much more precious to me. I am happy when I'm able to breathe because, like many of us, I've had 2 bouts of pneumonia and one of bronchitis where, it's hard to get air in. And, sometimes I stop and I inhale and I just feel so grateful that I'm able to inhale without coughing. So yeah, it changes everything. It does, and it changes the way you enjoy life. And the great suffering is when we try to recreate yesterday. That's the great suffering. And now that I talked about not coughing, I'm coughing. Joanne's leaving us. She said she's sorry she has another meeting. Thank you for letting me join. Thank you, Dr. Dan, for your words. And yeah, it was great hanging out with you, Joanne. I really appreciated our conversation and your openness. So, Paul, I don't know. How am I doing here? Did I address how you experience your life? Because, Julie, these questions that we're coming up with, with Paul and certainly Joanne and yours, these are bigger than the holidays, These are about relationships and how we relate to others, vice versa, and how we relate to ourselves. What's our relationship with ourselves? Is it one of respect and kindness, even affection? Can you look in the mirror and smile at that person looking back at you? And if you can, I recommend you do it, even if it's artificial. Smile at that person looking back at you in the mirror. And, don't look at your wrinkles or your hair, but look deeply in your eyes, and just smile at that person who you spend your whole life with, who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Just smile at that person, that man. So, Julie, you going to go back in the room?
Am I what?
Are you going to go back in the room where they hurt you?
I've decided that I'm not going to.
Okay. Well, there you go. There you go. You're in charge of your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations. Happy.
Thank you.
I'm happy for you.
I am too. I feel like, we all have our threshold, and I have given, many chances, and this last chance was it. So I can't get punched. And that's really how I feel. I feel like I go in the room and get punched in the face, and then, so I decided I don't want that anymore.
Yeah. My Joan, my partner, and I both grew up with sarcasm, this kind of biting sarcasm that looks on the outside like a joke. I mean, we've all experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was told, like many of us, oh, you're just being too sensitive. Well, it was hurtful, and it felt bad. And when I'm exposed to that kind of sarcasm, If I'm able to let it wash over me, I do. If not, I have to leave. Because it feels assaultive to me, whether it is or not, whether I am being too sensitive or not, whether I'm misreading them or not. It hurts. It hurts.
Right, and the most important thing that's very hard to understand is that hurt is not a right or a wrong. Hurt
Right.
is hurt. And
Right.
that's hard for others to understand as well, and also yourself to wrap your hands around.
Right. Right. Yeah. We have to take care of ourselves. Well, Julie, I think everybody who's on chimed in, did they? Nancy? We haven't heard from Nancy.
No, Nancy she snuck in on this meeting. So Nancy, if there's anything you would like to talk about before we end this call, we would love to hear from you. You can either use a chat box, or if you're dialed in, you may speak. *1 will get you, we will be able to hear you.
And I also want to say for all of you, please join, the Christopher webpage, the Healing the Heart and Mind. I'm always hanging out there. So,
yes, Nancy is dating someone with an SCI.
And we've been dating for 2 years now. So far, so good. Well, Nancy, we've had these conversations on my web page. So, boy, I'd love you to chime in on the web page, or you could email me directly. But boy, these issues are so important because they're really about relationships, and sometimes we've had a rocky relationship since the beginning of our relationship. So the question is, why do you stay? Why does he stay? What keeps you in there? And that might help you look at things in addition to the rockiness. It's like I said to Julie, Nancy, and I don't know if you heard. Nancy said love. That's exactly what I was thinking. You love each other, Nancy. Well, I'm assuming that he loves you also, or he or she, whoever you've been dating. But I'm assuming you love each other. So maybe the next conversation is for each of you to say all the reasons why you love each other. And then the next question, and this is more difficult, Nancy, so stick with me here. How do you love? Nancy, how do you experience loving that person? What happens in your body when you see them after not seeing them for a long time? What happens in your body when you think about them? And what's the sensation of love? And it's more complicated than you would think, and it's such a valuable exercise. So, we don't have time to go too much further, but please, hang out with me and us on the web page. And Nancy, I'm so happy you have love in your life. So very happy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy, for joining in. Yes, and I want to thank everybody for joining in today. And good. JS says, first time on the call and enjoyed hearing your perspective. I agree, JS. I love sitting here talking with Dr. Dan, and I love when other people get the chance to talk. So JS, please join us next month, and Nancy as well. And hopefully you'll be able to call in and really have a really good discussion with Dr. Dan. He's just fantastic. And if not, please go to christopherreeve.org/Dr. Dan and join our community. And he is in our community answering questions all the time. Be on the lookout for our next Dr. Dan web chat, which will be in the beginning of January.
Wow. Well, I guess happy holidays, happy new year.
Yes. I know, my goodness.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you, and please, please take care.
Thank you, Dr. Dan. I appreciate it.
And you too, Julie.
Thank you. You helped me a lot today, so thank you, everybody else, for being quiet.
All right, my dear.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.